before the break, Rory, you were asking why Tottenham fans do have such an issue with Daniel Levy. They always seem to shift that blame towards them. I've got a text here from Paul in London. It might be Paul Hawksby, actually, a big Spurs fan. He says Levy won't pay the wages and the teams make many mistakes and bad decisions. Ange is on the right track. Wages won't get the best players whilst decent transfer figures disguise the spending.
Yeah, absolutely. But just for the record here, I do understand why Daniel Levy gets a lot of unfavourable press from Tottenham fans. Tottenham fans are completely correct in their hostility to ENIC. I back them in their fight on that one. That's not the issue at all. What I'm saying is, when we're talking about why Tottenham are giving up a 2-0 lead at Brighton, when we're talking about why Tottenham are losing to Ipswich, when we're talking about why Tottenham are giving up a 2-0 lead at home to Chelsea, that isn't a conversation for Daniel Levy. That is a conversation where it needs to go immediately to the manager, immediately to Ange Postecoglou, and we need to explore why he's getting it wrong, how he's approached the game, what's his in-game management like. There's a conversation to be had about Daniel Levy and what he's doing for Tottenham Hotspur. And I believe that is a conversation that should be heard loud and clear. But I don't think they're the same conversation. The reason why it's going wrong for Tottenham, the reason why Tottenham are 11th in the league, is Ange Postecoglou.
Do you know what's interesting is yesterday you also had a game between Fulham and Bournemouth, finished 2-2, and you had Marco Silva up against Andoni Iraola, who I both think have been superb this season and actually over the last couple of seasons as well. Do you think that either, if not both of those managers, would be a better fit for Tottenham
100%
than Ange Postecoglou?
Yeah, 100%.
In what sense?
I think Marco Silva is clearly like the next super coach to be given an opportunity. He's going to be the next... Marco Silva, whatever job becomes available, his name will be linked to it. And same with Iraola. I feel like Marco Silva is slightly further down the road. I feel like he's slightly ahead in the queue.
Even though he has had jobs where it's gone wrong, Marco Silva.
You're thinking of Everton here.
I am thinking of Everton.
I think that's unjust.
Yeah.
I think it's unjust. It would be like saying it went wrong for Ancelotti there and therefore we should judge Ancelotti harshly. Like Ancelotti, serial European Cup winner, serial title winner, arguably the best manager ever. We don't judge him harshly because of how it went for him at Everton. And I don't think we should do the same for Marco Silva either. I think if you look at what Fulham have done, remember last year, They didn't have the best season last year, but if you think of the close season that they had, it didn't really go Fulham's way. They were distracted. They had the Mitrovic distraction. There was actually talk of Marco Silva going to Saudi. Do you remember? This year, they've kept the squad tight. They've made some very intelligent signings. He took them off to Portugal for a pre-season camp, and they have basically been flawless throughout. And I think that the reason why Fulham are doing so well, overachieving to a huge degree, is because of the brilliance of Marco Silva. There is no doubt in my mind. In fact, I don't think this is tribal. I feel like almost everybody would have to concede that this is true. This is the least controversial thing I've ever said. Marco Silva is a better manager than Ange Postecoglou.
I would agree with you.
That's
at this moment in time. I would agree with you, given the evidence. To be honest with you,
that's just the facts.
It might be that yes, maybe Ange has a different philosophy and style of football, and maybe it is entertaining. Maybe it will work.
So unquantifiable, though. You know, when you start talking to me about his identity and his beliefs, and like, look where they are in the league. That's what's quantifiable. Look how they play on a day-to-day basis. That is quantifiable. There is nothing quantifiable about these almost cryptic words that mean nothing.
It's so funny though, because when people talk about Ange Postecoglou, I think they always, even though they're Tottenham fans, sometimes they'll hark it back to Mikel Arteta and go, oh well, he finished 8th twice, but they stuck with it and they trusted the process and eventually it worked. And they kind of try and compare that. Do you think there's too much of that?
Olly,
has Arteta set a precedent that essentially a philosophy will eventually work?
Yeah, it's such a dangerous strategy. It really is such a dangerous strategy. So many inept managers are going to keep their job for years because of one shining example of Arteta. Arteta got it right. And there were moments where Arteta looked like he was going to get sacked, right? They played Burnley at home, they got beat, it looked like he was going to go that night.
Brentford, the first game of the season.
Brentford, they had that terrible start, didn't they? I think they had a few tricky games early on in the season. But ultimately, there was a game against Burnley, a night game against Burnley, where they lost 1-0 at the Emirates, and I felt like it was curtains for Arteta. To the board's credit, to Kroenke's credit, to Edu's credit, they persevered, they believed in their man, and th're reaping the rewards for doing so. But an awful lot of bad managers are going to get given time because of that one shining example.
Are you talking about, I know it's a lesser example in terms of the club size, but and he has eventually lost his job as well, but even that Russell Martin example where he was so... almost stubborn that he wanted to keep playing this style of football, and it didn't work.
I think his motives could be? The example from Vincent Kompany, that failing upwards.
I don't know about that for Russell Martin, actually.
Why did Vincent Kompany get the Bayern Munich job?
Because of his philosophy and style of football.
Because he committed to a philosophy and an identity, all these words that are just so inopportune at the moment. But he committed to a particular way of playing, and off the back of that style, Bayern Munich saw something, and he failed upwards. He failed. Vincent Kompany was a terrible Premier League manager. It didn't work. I'm not talking about him as an icon. I'm not talking about his contributions to football. I'm talking about him as Burnley manager last year. Distinct, utter failure. And he goes to manage one of the biggest clubs in the world.
So you're saying that clubs need to stop investing in managers purely based on identity and philosophy, and actually look at managers who can take them up the table and can adapt to games? I mean, the thing is, look at Nottingham Forest as well this season. Second in the table. Let's be honest, are they playing the most attractive style of football? They don't have much possession in a lot of their games. In a way, it's kind of similar to West Ham under Moyes. I think they're better than that, especially at the moment. But that is them moving away from that kind of thing and getting success off the back of it.
I just don't get it. I don't understand this kind of contribution from Guardiola into the Premier League and into modern day football, where everybody has to play out from the back. There's only one way to play football. There's only one way to view the game. It's so not true. There is a beauty in winning 1-0. There is a beauty in being ugly. There is a beauty in a goalmouth scramble. There is a beauty in a long ball and flick on. There is a beauty in that. And if you think back over the years, what managers have managed to defeat Pep Guardiola? Nobody that's tried to be an impression of Guardiola, nobody that's tried to play his way. The two managers that managed to win the league when Guardiola was at the helm was Antonio Conte, who played a 5 at the back, Victor Moses, Marcos Alonso, charging down the wing and getting the ball into the box for Diego Costa. That's how Chelsea won the league. The other manager to win the league was Jurgen Klopp, who obviously had his own identity and his own vision of football. This weird belief that seems to be permeating football at every level, by the way. You see sort of League Two players playing out from the back. What are you doing? You're not a good footballer. You can't do that. Like, I see Chelsea doing it sometimes. When we've got a back line and it's Benoit Badiashile and Axel Disasi, two footballers who do not want the ball at their feet ever, and we insist in playing the ball into their feet. It's like, what are you doing? Play the cards that you're dealt. And there is something brilliant going on at Liverpool. Arne Slot is being a pragmatic manager. The best manager currently working, arguably, is Guardiola or Ancelotti. Ancelotti, the very definition of pragmatic, only does what works, tweaks things, but makes sure that his players are the best players on the pitch and allows them the freedom to do their own thing. This rigid approach, we have to have a philosophy, we have to play a particular way. It's utter woke nonsense.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.